Shalom, Hebrews. This is Israel been Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood. The Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews. It's just, man, just simple, basic history that an Israelite should know in this day and time. It seemed like, Hebrews would have been and figured some of this stuff out. That, some of this history that, our people be using is not us. Being that, that is some other people claiming our heritage, and that we Israelites should know that is some history that is not ours, and how we shouldn't claim every single history that has a title, Israelite to it, because it's people that's been claiming our heritage for 2,600 years. Man, that I shall probably look farther than that, because, we did a lot of crazy stuff that allowed people to start claiming our heritage. That's like now how we don't have no control over the culture that we have, and who get it and profit from it and take control of it. We don't have no control of it. You know what I'm saying? That's like, that hip hop thing, and how other people appropriate what's called our culture and profit off of it more than we do. More than we do, man. It's crazy how we can invent something and come up with something, and then we don't even profit from it. And how the other people take it over and claim it as their own. Well, that's what happened with the Israelite history, and it just amazed me how Israelites, some of us supposed to be so spiritual, uh, uh, that oh man, that we could just glide across the scriptures and explain them, and oh man, and it's just all magical to them. But man, that mess is crazy, because the Israelites, when we explain our heritage, not the Israelite Brotherhood and those that's been associating with the Israelite Brotherhood, but the Israelite community, how they just explain Israelite heritage, disregard of the people that are called Jewish, or the Jews, the Ashkenazi, and the Sephardi Jews. How the Israelites don't mention their heritage at all. I'm talking about there's no mention of them, and not mentioning them in association with the Israelite heritage make your history, off. You know what I'm saying? Your history gonna be off, because if you're not mentioning the people that we associated with, or that had that we majorly interacted with, and not explaining their history, or when their history kick in, and when their history cut off, and when their history come on. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't explaining how them peoples interacted with our ancestors, then your history gonna be off. That's like, I don't want to be picking on the Hebrews, because it's Israelite Brotherhood, but man, we got to draw the line. We got to draw the line on this history, and we can't just be spitting all this history, and then it's just supposed to be Israelite history. Man, I wish it was a punishment, man, for the Israelites that they be kicking the Jewish history, so we could bring our history in line. You know what I'm saying? Starting to line it up correctly, because we ain't gonna get no. Everybody got a doctrine. Everybody got an interpretation of what Israelite heritage, in history supposed to be. And this the thing. That's cool that the Israelites is talking about Israelite history, but man, we got to start using common sense with the Israelite history. And when you explain Israelite history, you got to explain these groups and how they come in and got our heritage today. Now, it's kind of crazy to sit and talk about all this Israelite heritage and all this Israelite history with the Bible, but you ain't explaining how these groups claim Israelite heritage, or even in the Israelite heritage or even have an Israelite title. You know, the most Israelites gonna say, the Khazars. The Khazars. You know, they heard, man, that'd be the first thing come out their mouth, the Khazars, that all Jews come from the Khazars, you know, and I explain over and over that, you know, that that's false history and that, you know, man, it's a bigger picture, but, you know, I want you Hebrews to listen to these two sisters now, you know what I'm saying? That's why come sometime man need a man to be, you know what I'm saying, the Hebrew males got to step up, man, and take control, man, of this Israelite heritage. Yeah, the sisters, you know what I'm saying, they do a good job when they versed in correct history. But if a sister got false history and man, she just doing as much damage to the Israelite community as the Hebrew males, you know, do with spreading false history and so forth. You know, that's like these sisters, you know, they want to be right, and it's gonna come a time that the sisters, you know, gonna have truth, and that we all gonna have truth and know what happened to us. And truth is just knowing that we broke the covenant and forsake Almighty Yah for Egyptian religion, and then the the downside of that, you know, how we abandoned our heritage to some Babylonian scribes, and then how the Scythians, you know, also known as Ashkenazi, chased us out the promised land when you boil it all down to. Now, if your history ain't leaning that way or kind of like on that level, you know, then man, it's gonna be off, you know, because we understand what happened to us in the beginning, you know, that's what the Tanakh, you know, it is there for, and it tell you from Genesis all the way to the book of Malachi how we, you know, interacted, you know, in the promised land, and how we didn't do the covenant right. Okay, because we didn't do the covenant right, and then we was chased out the land. Man, it had to be somebody that did that, and being that we abandoned our heritage for Egyptian religion and left everything alone that was Israelite, we should know from reading the Tanakh that it was people practicing our heritage that we brung into our heritage, so-called bringing them into bondage. But, you know, the Nethinims, they was there. And, you know, the Amorite tribes that we Israelites didn't destroy, that was practicing our heritage, as well as the Amorites that was brung, you know what I'm saying, from Babylon during the Assyrian times and so forth. You know what I'm saying? And how that they was Amorites and placed in the promised land. You know what I'm saying? And man, I just want to explain how we should have basic Israelite history. Man, it's a must. And the basic Israelite history is knowing that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, knowing that it wasn't no Israelites in the New Testament times, and that the New Testament is going to be the people that settled in our land after we was driven out, and then after the exiles was destroyed. You know what I'm saying? That's like I'm going to show y'all a little bit of this sister, you know what I'm saying, with this video, and how she think that the tribe of Judah and Benjamin didn't go into no captivity, and that the 10 tribes was taken and off, and you know what I'm saying, and something crazy happened to them, the 10 tribes, and then she going to this Gentile thing of who the Gentiles are, and then I want to give a little explanation. You know, the Gentiles is going to basically be the peoples, the Hamites and the Japhets, they children that mixed up with Cain descendants, the Hittites and so forth. You know what I'm saying? The peoples that wasn't named with Prophet Noah's sons children, you know what I'm saying, their descendants in their line in the table of nations. And then how you have the Horites and Sir and the Hittites and, you know, all those peoples, you know, those going to be Cain descendants. And then how did they live underground in Turkey? And, you know what I'm saying? They lived underground in Turkey and you know, in caves and so forth. You know, I already explained how that, you know, with the angelic beings, you know, when the Creator flooded the earth, it was after him. And also when Cain left the Creator, and the Creator put a mark on him, Tazareth, took his pigmentation, and how he got down into the caves down in Turkey. That's going to be where Cain went. You know, Cain and the fallen angelic beings, you know, the Hittites and all them going to be the byproducts of that. But how did the peoples in the seas and in the islands, you know, these going to be the Gentiles, the real Gentiles. And I showed it how the Gentiles are through the Amorites. The Amorites mixed with the Nephilims and would mix with the Hittites and so forth. And them would be the Gentiles, basically all non-Israelite people, but mostly the strain that had mixed up with Cain kids gonna be the Gentiles. You know, those are gonna be the Gentiles, the people that mixed up with Cain descendants. And the Canaanites are the Canaanite tribes mixed up with Cain descendants. You know, the Canaanite tribes mixed up with the Hittites and so forth, and that's gonna be Cain descendants. They're gonna be idol worshippers and disbelief. You know, when Cain killed his brother Abel and got on down, you know, he didn't get instructions like Seth, you know what I'm saying, did. You know, Adam's other son that was born unto him. And how did Cain didn't get no instruction, so he gonna be an idol worshiper and a murderer and a killer, a thief and a crook. So you know he had to get up underground and hide during them times, and then he went underground in Turkey. But all those nations that's close by, that's in the islands and so forth, they would be, you know what I'm saying, infected and mixed up with the Hittites and so forth, as the caves underground went all the way, you know what I'm saying, from Turkey all the way through Europe and stuff, you know what I'm saying, underground and so forth. I'm going to show a little history about that too. And them going to be the Gentiles, you know, and I'm going to show this in the Tanakh history too, how those are the Gentiles, you know. And the Gentiles, they're just going to be basically, you know, a non-Israelite that got a Cain, you know, a Cain element, you know what I'm saying, and the Cain and the Nephilims, you know what I'm saying, all them gonna be the, you know, the same for mixing and stuff, you know, and you know, they kind of like, they ain't the Semitic, you know what I'm saying, and how the Semitic gonna be mostly the Amorites mixing with all the ancient tribes, man, basically everybody, you know what I'm saying, but how that the Gentiles, you know what I'm saying, they kind of like, man, pigmented European stock, you know. All right, let's see about this, and let's see what they say. All right, let's see if I can get this sister video up, and then we hear what she say. It's a sisters on the couch conversation, you know. And man, like I say, man, we be, you know, the Israelites don't know the difference between Israelite history in Jewish history, and then how did they think all history that got an Israelite title belonged to us, and that's how the Israelites get trapped in that New Testament, you know. And then they don't even go try to research the history, or try to get an understanding, you know. And that's why it's important to get an understanding of the Tanakh, because if you understand Tanakh history, then you will know that our history couldn't have went over into the Roman times. That's like the one brother, man, the one brother that support the Israelite Brotherhood said this, you know, that I made a video not too long about how the Israelites think they right using Edomite history, but how that the Jesus fella supposed to be in the Hebrew, and how that all his history was written in Greek, and that wasn't translated from Aramaic or Hebrew to Aramaic to Greek, to Latin, and then how that it was just written entirely in Greek, and then how that the people during the Jesus time spoke Aramaic, what I'm saying, a mixture, what I'm saying, languages, but how that it wasn't no Greek languages, and then how that it was during the Roman times that Jesus exists when they was using Latin and so forth. So man, it's all confusion and mixed up, and man, that stuff is abomination to be associated with the New Testament. All right, Hebrews, let's look at this here, and then let's see, man, about this sister right here. These two sisters.
Real remarkable. But he real down. Just like then, think about it. Many of you had no clue what an Israelite was. You did not know you was an Israelite. You didn't know you was a Hebrew. You went to church for however many years. You thought you was a what? A Gentile. A Gentile. We had a family member tell us, when we told that family member, you are an Israelite. That family member said, no, I'm not. I am a Gentile. Out of his own mouth.
That's what he said. And and that's
for yourself.
Yeah.
And see if the things that are being said is true or not. All right, because a lot of the stuff that is still being taught, it comes from Christianity.
That's right.
And it's just been brought over here. But there are a lot of things that we learned from Christianity. We took it off, didn't we?
Yes,
but there's still some things.
See, she don't know that it's Jewish history that you got to take off.
So
Jewish history
Genesis
was before
chapter 10,
Christianity.
verse 2 and then verse 5.
People go here to establish what they think the Gentiles are, based off of this misunderstanding.
Verse 2 reads, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. We're going to skip down to verse 5. And by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations.
So, it'll be said, all right, the sons of Jacob, these are the Gentiles. It said the isles of the Gentiles. But if you go look up the word Gentiles, you can read this in the Strong's Concordance.
Now you got to go to the Jewish sources.
Where Gentiles means there.
Okay.
To show that it's just not exclusive to one group.
Gentile, nation.
And this is under the biblical usage in the Strong's Concordance of the Blue Letter Bible. You all can look this up for yourself.
It means nation. It can mean people.
We're not going to get to the part where they're talking about the 10 lost tribes.
Also, if you go to Genesis chapter 10, depends is
into possession, king of Egypt. Yes.
To this day.
And verse 20. And the head of Damascus is Rezin. And with
That's
it's just like you'll find the word water.
Right.
Believed. We keep our slave master's name.
That's right.
Okay.
So, sisters, Israelite Gentiles among the Gentiles.
It ain't no Israelites. An Israelite cannot be a Gentile. Israelite cannot be a Gentile. But I'm trying to find this part where these sisters was talking about, man, the 10 lost tribes, and how that it was just Judah around, and how the Syrians took 10 of the tribes away, and how they disappeared and mixed in with the Gentiles and all of those crazy stuff.
By horsemen.
And we know the house of Judah, they still remain after the house of Israel was taken out of the land.
See?
The house of Judah, they remain.
That's right.
And what did we read? What did we just read in Hosea? I think it was Hosea.
Daughter. And God said unto him, Call her name Lo-Haramah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel.
On the house of Israel. Mm-hmm. He ain't talking about all Israel.
No.
He's talking about the northern kingdom.
That's right. Not Judah, y'all.
Not Judah.
But the house of Israel. That he will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel. But I will utterly take her away.
So he's going to take them away. He's talking about into captivity.
Yeah.
And not only that, what he said, you're going to be not a people. I'm going to break you, and you're going to be not a people.
That's right. And then
that's what happened in the transatlantic slave trade with the curses.
But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah.
Oh, but he'll have mercy on the house of Judah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so he just made a distinction.
He made a distinction. Yes,
between
ma'am.
the two houses. And will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses.
This was the Syrian time
by
with Ahaz and so forth.
And we know the house of Judah, they still remain after the house of
King
Israel was
Hezekiah
taken out of the land. That the house of Judah, they remain.
That's right.
And what did we read? What did we just read in I think it was Hosea 11 and 12, that he ruleth with God.
Yes, yes.
Them sisters don't know.
And so that's why when you go to the New Testament, you still see the house of Judah there, you know, with our Messiah.
That's right.
Who had, 12 disciples.
Look, they don't crazy.
Of Judah.
That's right.
They still some Christians, and they still, Christians, and they just denounce Christianity. But they still believing in Christianity.
That's right.
Saved, but the way that he was going to save them.
But the thing is,
that's right.
how they believe in that 10 lost tribes stuff.
Not Judah, but the house of Israel, that ye are not my people.
You are not my people.
See, me and them sisters don't know, you know what I'm saying? And they done read a few little books, and then, they know that Christianity is wrong, but they can't break up from it because they still believe in the New Testament, you know what I'm saying, in its history. It's just that they done, gave it a black face, and Hebrews do that. But the thing is, them sisters believe in the 10 lost tribe, and that 10 tribes was taken during the Assyrian times, and that that only Judah and Benjamin remained, and then I showed in the history that the tribe of Judah broke the covenant, was the last stronghold that we had, and how it collapsed because of Egyptian religion, and that how that the northern kingdom was on Egyptian religion for 300 years, and that how in the later part, that after King Josiah was killed, how we, went to Egyptian religion, and then how that all the tribes was driven into Africa. I show that it's no 10 lost tribes. See, them sisters don't know about dates and timelines. Maybe if they knew about the dates and timeline, you can read the scriptures all day and all night, and if you ain't putting it in its proper sense, then man, it ain't gonna make sense, and you can be shown to be off, especially if you, talking about that the Assyrian took 10 tribes away. We know that that's false, and how that the tribes were around during King Hezekiah time, as the tribes was around during King Josiah time. And then we know that the Babylonians pull up after that, and that how we all went into Africa, as I showed in countless videos, how the Israelites were among the exiles that was taken out the promised land to the Mesopotamia area. I show this. But look here, let's tackle this Gentile thing. As I explained, that the Gentiles gonna be those mixed up with Cain descendants, mostly them Hittites and them Havites and so forth, and that them would be the Gentiles, you know what I'm saying? Them would be the Gentiles, the Goyim, and if you go to Genesis. Let's go to Genesis. Genesis 10. And these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Shem the oldest. And unto them were sons born after the flood. And the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Mahadi, Javan, Tubal, Machich, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenazi, Raphat, Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elish, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodan. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and nations. And then look, this the isles now. And then this the isles where some of these folks at. And then if you look where the isles at, man, it's gonna be like all over here. It's a lot of little islands. A lot of little islands, men around in these parts. And it's gonna be where Japhet kids mixed in with the Hittites. You know what I'm saying? All these islands and stuff, them little bitty islands. But man, look at them little bitty islands. You know what I'm saying? Them little bitty islands all around and stuff. Those are the islands, and that's gonna be where Cain at, you know what I'm saying, underground. You know what I'm saying? The Hittites. And anything mixed with them, we're gonna be having some Gentile in them, you know what I'm saying? Unclean, goy. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be strangers also. And then how that they would mix with all these folks, you know what I'm saying? Down here in Cain, the Canaanites would mix with them too. And then, I'm gonna show that. Alright. So we see that Japhet descendants is called Gentiles. You know what I'm saying? So now, man, let's look up the word Gentile also while we doing this, and let's see. All right, and this is from the Jewish encyclopedia, because they got our heritage. Sometimes they have a little history correct coming from us, and then you can see that it's it kind of correlate with the scriptures. So then that it's kind of true what they saying. Look, Gentile certainly be abandoned as contrary to truth. The word Gentile correspond to the late Hebrew goy, a synonym for hunker, signifying stranger. You know what I'm saying? A non-Israelite, because we know here every Israelite wasn't no Jew, and that how the tribe of Judah was not a Jew, and that the Jews are from the Jebusites, Amorites, and so forth. All right, but in the Hebrew Bible, goy in its plural goyim toward the Gentile majority of the humanity. Them see the books of Ruth and such. Look, this opposite the Greeks, the Syrians, and the Romans. Them peoples, was gonna be some goyim and stuff, because the Greeks, the Romans, and the Syrians is gonna be Japhet kids. You know what I'm saying? As that they was Gentiles, as shown. Now look here. Now one of the Canaanite tribes were called Gentile, Hasherath, Goyim, and Sisera. Sisera was a Canaanite, and then how did this Canaanite? I'm gonna read about it. Was a Gentile, a Sisera. You know what I'm saying? And then they give you a little history on him, but this is what the archaeologists show. Sisera's name has been identified as Philistine, Hittite, Haran. You see what I'm saying? Look, Sisera, I identify Sisera with the sea peoples called, all right, but you see, the sea peoples is gonna be the folks that came from Turkey. that's gonna be like them Amorites and them Hittites mix, and they gonna probably have some Japhet mixed with them because they in them islands and so forth, and how that they would sail over here and occupy North Africa, and this was one of their strongholds too, Spain, Tarshish, but you see all them islands right there. That were all them Gentiles gonna be at the unclean folks that had mixed with the Hittites. You see what I'm saying? The cave folks. Now, man, let's go look and see where the Hittites live. Now, we know Sisera, and I'm going to get to reading about Sisera, but this is going to be, you know what I'm saying?
Coming from an extraterrestrial source inside the Earth.
Extraterrestrial
Some
source
ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest evidence
inside
of this.
the earth. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be what Cain took off at. You know what I'm saying? Inside the earth and stuff. And that's where he lived, man, in them underground cities in Turkey. That's going to be the Hittites' territory. Look, watch this. They going to tell you.
It was originally dug in Hittite times, over 1,000 years before Christ.
Look, 1,000 years
Later,
before
this
the Jesus
underground
do.
world provided an almost ready-made refuge.
Look, 36 chambers,
Through
36
the
cities that
centuries,
can
when
hold. Look, 36 cities that can hold 20,000 people. 36 cities underground. That's going to be what Cain and his descendants took off to, because they didn't have no pigmentation. And, they was underground because, Almighty Yah going to have been after them after the flood when he tried to get them, because they mixed with the Nephilims and so forth. And we know that the Nephilims in the Cain descendants would go off into the Amorites and so forth. Them would be the giants. And in how we had to deal with them and get rid of their culture. Matter of fact, their science and culture have us imprisoned now in this modern day Egypt that we've been taken to, like Almighty Yah said we will be taken to in ships. But you see, them folks lived underground, and it was the Hittites, men up under the Cain descendants. This is what the 36 cities underground. You know what I'm saying? In Turkey, and then it stretched from Turkey. Them cities would go all them, and they would have them all underground, all over Europe, all in the Alps. It's cold and all around the Caucasus Mountain. Then we know Ashkenazi come from the Caucasus Mountain over here, so he gonna be mixed in with them folks. That's why Japhet descendants, would lose their pigmentation, because they would mix in with Cain seed and so forth, and how that they was underground. All right, listen.
They were built by the Christians to escape the Arab influence.
Now we know he ain't built by no Christians. Look, Christians wasn't around in 10,000 BC. All right, let's see about this Gentile thing that them sisters don't know about. And if you read the book of Judges, oh man, we was all tore up. We was tore up. We had come out of Egypt. And then we didn't do none of the things that we supposed to have did after Prophet Joshua passed away. And then how we just fell off and fell into all type of bondages. And we didn't get rid of them Amorite tribes. We didn't get rid of the Amorite, Canaanite tribes and those Gentiles that we supposed to have got rid of. And in the book of Judges tell you, what I'm saying, this history. And it tell you how we got throwed off, and then how we was into bondage after bondage. And then how that, when you got a covenant from Almighty Yah, that you can't mix up with the other people, and you can't become part of them, and how you instantly become separated because the other things that the people do didn't come from Almighty Yah. Man, it's like this so evil, wicked, Amorite culture that we live in now today. It's real evil, and how your property is really not your property. You know what I'm saying? That's like here, man, the code enforcer, man, he could just keep coming over, bothering you and bothering your house and take you to court. You get fines, and then you have to pay taxes on your property that you just never really own. You don't own nothing here, and how Almighty Yah didn't want us to be caught up like this and trapped in a culture like this. Man, this is a culture of ruin and the culture of oppression, and how that you really don't own anything, and how that that our enemies got us caught in this culture, that after slavery that they never tried to repatriate us to any lands, and that how we here, what I'm saying, in oppression, and that how that we Israelites, got to wake up, and that how that we gonna get our power is when we start using correct Israelite history. Every group can't be the spokesperson for the Israelite community. I'm sorry to say it, and everybody that speak Israelite history ain't gonna be correct. And like I say, that if a person don't establish off the top how they then separated Jewish myths from Israelite history, then man, you're gonna have to watch out for them. And then, we're gonna have to start shunning them Israelites that use that Jewish history, because they spreading it, and then that's like Israelites, man. If you look at some of them peoples that got the videos, and how they have thousands of followers, thousands of subscribers, and then how that they spreading that false history everywhere, and then how we're gonna have to find some kind of way to bring that falseness to an end, because we ain't gonna get nowhere uh, passing Jewish history off as Israelite history. Man, it ain't gonna work. And then that's what Israelites been doing. That's like, with that video with them sisters, man, as you listen to them, they get to going off into the New Testament doctrine and trying to explain how the Samaritans, and man, them sisters don't understand, man, about the Sephardis. Like I say, that if an Israelite ain't mentioned in his history somewhere, you probably got to give him a few minutes to get warmed up. You're going to have to give them a few minutes to get warmed up. But as they explaining Israelite history to you, if they don't mention Ashkenazi or the Sephardi, we know the Sephardis are the Sephardims. If they don't mention them some kind of way, man, within a decent frame of time, and then they just to get the going on, then man, that them folks ain't got no truth, and we got to go on and push them on to the side. You Israelites gonna have to start saying, hey, what about Ashkenazi in the Sephardims, the Sephardi? Where do they fit in all this? When somebody get to spitting some Israelite history to me, I'm gonna ask you, hey, Ashkenazi and the Sephardis, where do they history fit in? I'm gonna ask you that. I'm gonna ask you that, and if you can't explain that, then the conversation is over. If you can't explain that, then the conversation is over. So it don't make no sense to carry it on, because you ain't doing them but spreading falsehood. So you're gonna have to ask Israelite whenever they kick in the history, you're gonna say, hey, what about Ashkenazi and the Sephardi? Where do they fit in all this? And then, most folks gonna stop. They gonna put the brakes on it, because they ain't gonna have no answers how Ashkenazi and the Sephardis got into the Israelite heritage. They ain't gonna have no answers. They ain't gonna have no answers, and they gonna start making some stuff up, and then that's when that, hey man, we can't get down like that. This is how it go, and then you run the truth down to them. How we broke the covenant for Egyptian religion. That's like them sisters, man, they ain't mentioned damn time in their history. You know, man, I love them. You know, because them Israelite sisters better than a whole bunch of Hebrew sisters that's caught up in this Egyptian culture that don't want to let it go, that care more about the Kardashians. You know, you got sisters, Hebrew sisters care more about the Kardashians than they do their own heritage and trying to be like them type of peoples. But how these sisters, you know, trying to seek some truth. So, you know, that's a blessing within itself. But it's got to be a strong Hebrew male somewhere that needs to be leading these sisters with some truth, you know. And you know, the sisters, men are leaders too, but man, you see what happened, man. Man, if ain't no Hebrew male around then, I believe if it was a Hebrew male around, that he probably could have helped them a little bit on getting some understanding. And I pray that them sisters tune in to the Israelite Brotherhood channel so they can, you know, get some Jewish myth-free history. All right, but you see how these sisters ain't not one time mentioned during the Babylonian Wars or how we broke the covenant. See, most Israelites don't know nothing about that. And then that's basic Israelite history that must be known. You know, you must know that we broke the covenant during the Babylonian Wars and that was it for the whole Israelite nation. Even though Almighty Yah is compassionate, even though Almighty Yah is compassionate and that he let the exiles come back to home from the Babylonian captivity, and then that'll be the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and then how did those prophets, you know, overseeing the captivity. And then I explain in countless videos how the exiles were like a little one tenth that got destroyed, that prophet Isaiah prophesied their destruction. But before the Assyrian captivity even come about, or the Babylonian wars, or the Greeks in the Romans, and how he had already stated what happened to the exiles. You know, I might read that because, you know, that'll bring a little clarity to the history, and then how that the exiles once you know, Malachi, we got down to, you know, 430 BC, how it was basically over with. You know, it was over with, and how Almighty Yah had rejected the priesthood. That's like now. You know, you got people trying to do Israelite heritage all over the world, up off the covenant land, and then people ain't stopped to ask one time, well, what happened to the Levites in the priests? You know, that's how they try to use the 10 lost tribe things, story from the Assyrian era to try to cover that up. But how that, you know, that where's the priests and the Levites, and then how these folks practicing the Israelite heritage all over the world, and then how that the Tanakh don't endorse none of that, and that how everything had to be done on the promised land. You know, everything had to be done on the promised land, and that how that we couldn't do and practice our heritage all over these places, and that how that when the Israelites went into the Assyrian captivity, that how that it was only just 3 tribes to fight her, and how that a big old myth has been created, you know what I'm saying, behind the Assyrian captivity. And I explained that in plenty of videos, how it wasn't no Assyrian captivity. All right, Hebrews, let's, you know what I'm saying, let's look at some of this. That's like this. Israelite wouldn't be able to even understand how a lichiness. Now these are Alexander, the so-called great. You know, you could be great for mischief and wickedness. You know, Alexander, the so-called great bodyguards, and then how did one of his bodyguards' descendants would become co-high priests of the promised land. You know, will become co-high priests of the promised land. And then how in the world did that happen? How in the world did Alexander and the Ptolemies? I got videos. I'm gonna start breaking down the Ptolemies that was claiming Israelite heritage, and how that the Ptolemies had married into the Jews and so forth, and how that they all kind of like mixed and stuff, but how the Ptolemies and the Lichamus man became fake Israelites, and how that they descendants were ruled, and then how that it would all go down to this dude called Philo, and that how all those folks was practicing the Israelite heritage that was Greeks, and even the Romans were not Israelites, and how did Israelites think that our heritage went all the way down to the Greek and Roman times. You know what I'm saying? We went to the Roman times. You know, the Greeks would get rid of the exiles, and then how no Israelites got no explanation or even heard many of them Jesus right there, and all of them lived in the promised land. All of them lived in the promised land, but ain't no Israelite tried to find out about now one of them Jesuses and wondering which one of them fit the New Testament history, and how all of them had similar history. I'm talking about Israelites don't know this, and then that's why I come out say that you have to separate Israelite history from the Jews' history. See, those are the Jews right there that was in the promised land. And that them gonna be the peoples that we abandon our heritage to, you know. And I'm gonna show that the people we abandon our heritage to, I mean, they wasn't never chased out. And then how that they was practicing our heritage from their kindreds that was the same as them. That's like the Amorites, the Nethinims, how the people from Sippar, from Babylon were Amorites, and how that they would be placed in Samaria in 722 BC, and that how that they would be there when we got chased into Africa, and how that they was practicing our heritage as well as being kindred to the Nethinims and the Gabonites, the Amorites that we Israelites didn't destroy. I got videos going into all that, you know, and then how that man them Sephardims are in control of the promised land now. All right, let's look and see where them folks come from, and then I'm gonna get back to the Gentile thing. All right, I turn right to it. All right, this is in 722 BC, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Gutta, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim. That's Sippar. That's Sippar. That's on Euphrates, but that's where your tax system come from. That's where your tax system that we have today and how it function come from, and that's how capitalism and how they distribute and carve up the land into little bitty sections, acres and miles and so forth, that come from them. But how the tax come from them. They the master of the tax. Every tax that's been created in the Western Hemisphere originally come from these folks. They the founder of the tax. All right, and then how that they was placed in our land in 722 BC, and then how that they came to the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah. You know, they came to the Passover dinner. If you go to Second Chronicles, and these will be the strangers, the Goyams. You know what I'm saying? As they was mixed with the we can say they was Amorites, so they're gonna be mixed with the folks from Turkey and so forth, the Hittites, and then I show this, you know what I'm saying? I can easily show how the Amorite and the Hittite created, you know what I'm saying, Jerusalem and the founder of Jerusalem. That's Jerusalem original stock gonna come from them. You know, Almighty, I had mercy on them at different times. Look, all right, we go to Second Chronicles 30, and then this showed that there wasn't no 10 lost tribes. You know, as you read down Second Chronicles 30, this is in 715 BC. This is in 715 BC. This is 7 years after the so-called Assyrian captivity, and how the tribes are still home, and how King Hezekiah sent a letter to all Israel, you know, and tried to get them to come to the Passover. And as you read down, you know, you'll see that he said, so the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. You see how, you know what I'm saying, they escaped the Assyrians? Well, you know, that whole Assyrian captivity is a lie. And them sisters, you know, they believe in them Jewish myths, as they say, that the Assyrians took 10 tribes and only Judah and Benjamin was left there. You know, and then that's false, because you can see that the Israelites was there during King Hezekiah time, during King Josiah time, during Prophet Jeremiah time, as well as Prophet Ezekiel time, as well as Nehemiah and Ezra mentioned, you know what I'm saying, the Israelites. So, you know, we got to wake up from using the Jewish history. You know, the sisters want to be right, but somebody got to step in and say, hey, man, this is the way. And that's not the way. You know, and then, like I say, when them Israelites be mixing it up with the New Testament, they going to be wrong. And then, like I say, man, you can kind of like tune them out after about a few minutes when they get to talking and they don't mention Ashkenazi and the Sephardi's heritage and how they come into our heritage. Then them folks ain't gonna know no truth. This is the standard test. When you Israelites hear somebody talking about some Israelite history, and then they talking about how they know, you know, this and that, then ask them, say, excuse me, can you explain how Ashkenazi and the Sephardi's got into the Israelite heritage, or how did they come to claim an Israelite heritage? That should shut all that other stuff down, because if they truthful 9 out of 10, they ain't gonna know. But then you gonna have some Israelites, man, that's gonna make some stuff up. You know, they gonna make some stuff up, and then you will be able to straighten them and check them. You know, some Israelites don't want to be shown the truth and don't want to be told the truth, because they think, man, they know everything. You know, they think they know everything. But as you read Second Chronicles 30, and then you get down to verse 25, and all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites and all the congregation that come out of Israel. Now this is 7 years after the Assyrian captivity. King Hezekiah sent a letter throughout all Israel. You know, I'm gonna show you. I might as well show that from Beersheba to to Dan. All right, look. So they proclaim a decree. Let me just read the whole thing. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim of Israel. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time, as sort as it was written. So look, man, they sent the post. Man, they sent the post from from Beersheba, from Beersheba to Dan. Let's look and see what Beersheba to Dan is. All right, there go Beersheba. All right, and he sent the post all the way to Dan, all the way up there, asking them to come to the Passover dinner. So 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 the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, and according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. You see, them sisters, they don't know that we escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. You see, so then it wouldn't be no Judah and Benjamin by themselves if we escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. And then as I had named some of the tribes, he named some of the tribes, all right, and then as you read down, and then you get down, so the post passed from city to city throughout the country of Ephraim, Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them, because we was on Egyptian religion in the northern kingdom, man, for 300 years. You know what I'm saying? Before it was cleaned up by King Josiah. These Israelites would be still up under the Egyptian religion from Jeroboam in the northern kingdom. So they going to have a little stiff neck. You know what I'm saying? All right. Nevertheless, the verse of Asher and Manasseh and Zebulun humbled themselves and come to Jerusalem. Also in Judah, the hand of Yah was to give them one heart to do the commandment of the king and of the princes by the word of the Elohim, and there assembled at Jerusalem much people to keep the feast of unleavened bread in the second month, a very great congregation. And they arose and took the altar that was in Jerusalem, and all the altars for incense took they away and cast them in the brook Kidron. Then they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the second month. We was having a good time. And then as you read down, look, for the multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Ishkar, and Zebulun had not cleansed themselves, yet they did eat the Passover, otherwise that it was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, The good Elohim pardon everyone. So everybody was still at home after the Assyrian captivity, as I showed that, look, they escaped the Assyrians, look. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. So we know that, that them Israelites escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria, as they was here to come to the Passover dinner. And as you've seen, I done read quite a few tribes, and then as you get down, look, this gonna be the Sephardims coming to the Passover dinner, the strangers, the Goyim, look, and all the congregation. This is 2 Chronicles 30:25, and all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites and all the congregation that come out of Israel, and the strangers that come out of the land of Israel that dwell in Judah rejoice. King Hezekiah was happy to have any of the northern kingdom peoples come to the Passover to try to get them up off the Egyptian religion. And then as we see that Gentile means stranger. Look, Gentile signifies stranger, a non-Israelite, and that's gonna be them Goyim peoples. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna be the folks that got some Hittite mixed in them that came to see, you know what I'm saying, is going to be the Gentile folks. You know, that's going to be the Gentile folks, you know. As I shown that Sisera was a Gentile. And Sisera, we killed and got rid of him, but Sisera's name has been variously identified with the Philistines and with the Hittites and with Haran. You know, so we know that the Hittites is gonna have a Cain element, and them would be the Gentiles that sister didn't know nothing about. But as I said, did you see it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, because everybody there doing King Hezekiah times, and then as you get over to Second Chronicles 34, this is dealing with King Josiah. He don't have nothing to do with the Assyrians. The Assyrians has been destroyed by Ashkenazi. That's why I say it's important to have Ashkenazi in the history. And if you can't explain how Ashkenazi got in our history, and you speaking this Israelite history, and you can't mention their name, then something ain't right. You ain't speaking no Israelite history, because they part of the Israelite heritage in history. That's like Ashkenazi destroyed Assyria and then come chase us Israelites into Africa. You know, the Scythians, Ashkenazi, came and chased us into Africa, and then they did it after they destroyed the Assyrians. After they destroyed the Assyrians, man, them folks hurry up and come got up with us, because we wouldn't stop fooling around with that Egyptian religion. We can't even get mad at Ashkenazi, because Almighty Yah told them to come when he told Prophet Jeremiah to call the nations from the north. And then that's going to be them Goyams, the Gentiles, and all them folks, you know. He called them men to come get us. As well as I can show in Tanakh history where he told our enemies to chastise us. You know what I'm saying? He done told our enemies to chastise us, man, a few times. And it's like now we being chastised by our enemies. And some of the Israelites don't understand. You know, they don't understand. All right, look. Let me find some of this. Look. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Elohim, and the Elohim strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they did evil in the sight of the Elohim. Look, you know what I'm saying? Mahina did that quite a few times, where he done strengthened our enemies to have a power over us. And it's like we in that situation now. You know, we in that situation now, where the Creator and strengthen our enemies to have power over us. And that's like one of these Gentiles, you know what I'm saying? Some of these Gentiles we got rid of. You know what I'm saying? That's like if you go to Judges 4. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Elohim when Ehud was dead. And the Elohim sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazorah. The captain who was host was Sisera, which dwelt in Hazorah of the Gentiles. You see his army and stuff gonna be, you know what I'm saying, of the Gentiles and stuff. That's like the Chaldeans, the Babylonians had Scythians, the Gentiles in their army to come destroy us when they came and so forth. All right, but you see how, you know, Sisera was a Gentile, and then as you read the story, the sister Deborah, the prophetess Deborah of Lebanon, she got up with him, and you know what I'm saying, and raised us up, and then how we rebelled, man, against them folks, and then we end up, you know, getting them and stuff. Look, and as you read on to then let me see, this is Judges 4, and then you get to 12, and they showed Sisera that Barak, the son of Abnoam, who was up by Mount Tabor, and Sisera gathered together all his chariots, even 900 chariots of iron. And those iron chariots gonna come from the Hittites, Cain descendants, the Gentiles. The Gentile folks. That the Hittites are kind of like the first ones they say to start. With them iron chariots, because we know that Cain and them smelted iron and stuff from being down in the ground in them caves and stuff, and how they be digging in the ground and stuff. So they gonna run across some iron ore, and then that's what happened. All right. But you see how Sisera gathered together the chariots, even 900 chariots of iron, and all the people that were with him from Hezrot of the Gentiles unto the river Kishon. But you see Barak pursued after the chariot and after the host unto Hezrot of the Gentiles, and all the host of Ezra fell men upon the edge of the sword, and there was not a man left. We told the Gentiles mouth out. We told the Gentiles mouth out. So we don't be worried about the Gentiles. It's the Amorite, Kenite culture that we need to be worried about. The people who control it. Because the Gentiles are just basically the European like stock folks that ain't Israelites. So me and the Gentile gonna probably be a little easier to deal with than the Edomite. You know what I'm saying? But as I said, at first, that how Almighty Yah caused them Gentiles, Ashkenazi and them folks to chase us out the promised land. And then they would shoot the promised land up. And then you would have all kind of arrowheads and stuff still left. And you know what I'm saying? That come exclusively from those folks. And then that's like I said, that if an Israelite ain't mentioning anything, about the Sephardis and Ashkenazi and how they got into our heritage, then, them folks' history gonna be off. You know what I'm saying? That's like the creator called Ashkenazi to come chase us up off the land when he called the peoples from the north. That was basically calling the Gentiles. Look, this is Jeremiah 1, and then you get over to 14. Then the Elohim said unto me, out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, said the Elohim, and they shall come, and they shall set everyone his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all the walls there around about, and against all the cities of Judah. And how that they will claim an Israelite heritage and move in. But we know that Prophet Jonah, Prophet Noah, had said that long time ago, how Japhet, them Gentile folks, to get our heritage, live in our house. If you go to, this would be Genesis 9. Genesis 9. This would be Genesis 9:27. And the Elohim shall enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And then all that translated is that the Ashkenazi who represent Japhet house got the Sephardims, the Canaanite tribes, in hostage, and then took everything from them, and then took the Babylonian way over, as Prophet Jeremiah said would happen anyway during the end of our heritage when we was driven off the land. He would tell them folks that Ashkenazi gonna take over the Babylonian way, and sure enough, if that didn't happen. And then if you go to Jeremiah, it'll be Jeremiah 50. Let's see, that'll be Jeremiah 27. Set up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Aret, Mini, and Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz, you see, and appoint captains over her and cause the horses to come up as the rough calipers, and then they would take over the Babylonian way. You know, the Babylonian way ain't nothing but the Sephardi Ashkenazi way. And then how that, you know, uh, uh, they would take over that. You know, they would take over that. And they took that over. And how Ashkenazi run the whole show now, man. I always read that little paper showing that how the Sephardis are discontent with Ashkenazi control of the Jewish heritage. I don't know where that paper at right now. But, alright, Hebrews. You know, like I say, if the Israelites don't mention these groups in our heritage and how they come into our heritage, then something ain't right. Then you need to turn them off. They ain't gonna be knowing no truth, because if they can't explain how Ashkenazi got into our heritage, then something ain't right. They got to explain how the Sephardi and the Ashkenazi got into our heritage, and if they can't do that, then their history ain't gonna be right. You know, that's why come them sisters are using Jewish myths, and they don't know. They don't know. Alright, Hebrews, I done showed y'all how that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. We basically know this. This ain't nothing but, you know what I'm saying, repeating this same history over and over, because we know it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. But for some reason, the other Israelites are hard getting around to this information, how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. And if they understand that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, then that'll open the door. You know what I'm saying? That's like I explained, wasn't no Israelite in the New Testament, because these people had suffered. Let me show that, because I ain't show this in the last video. Man, I turn around to it. Look, alright, this is Ezra 4. Now, we know that Prophet Ezra time, it is around, let's see. And I just had it. Alright. Now we see the Prophet Ezra, it is around 537 to 456 BC. And then, you know, they didn't come back because the Persians done defeated the Babylonians, Ashkenazi and them. But Ashkenazi had settled in our land on a slick slide. He had settled in what's called Scythopolis. You know what I'm saying? That's by Samaria too. And then that's where Ashkenazi settled. You know, Scythian is synonymous with Ashkenazi. Alright. So these people here were settled in the land, as well as the people from 722 BC. These will make up the New Testament people. You're going to have to ask yourself, where did these people go? Because like I showed, the prophet Isaiah said that the exiles would be destroyed. You know, they would fade off like a faded leaf. Alright, this is Ezra 4. Then wrote Rehum the counselor, and Shimi the scribe, and the rest of their companions, the Danites, the Arshivites, the Tarpalites, the Arphishaphites, the Archivites, the Babylonians, the Shushanites, the Devites, and the Elamites. Man, it's 12 nations of folks. Ain't no telling how many. As well as I got a video showing that when the exiles come back from Babylon, that everybody, all the enemies, everybody from Mesopotamia came back to the promised land and tried to claim an Israelite heritage. I got videos explaining this about the Tobiats and how did all them folks come back from Babylon and how they tried to start claiming the Israelite heritage, as well as I already showed that we had some people already claiming Israelite heritage, the people from 722 BC. You know, from right here, look. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutter, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from Sephardim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt therein. All right, now all those folks, now what all those nations have in common is that they worship God's sons, demigods, or women having miraculous births. You know, all those nations that settled in our land from the Mesopotamia area believe in God's sons, because that's what Babylon history consists of. You know, Norajah, Murdoch, and man, all those Babylonian gods, you know, those are going to be God's sons, and so forth. And how did they, you know, the people that settled in our land believed in God's son. So, 500 years later, after the Tanakh closed with the book of Malachi, that them people gonna have a history too. And them people history started around Greek times. During the Greek times is when you get a whole lot of books that's not by the prophets, or don't have this said the Elohim and all that. And then how that those books are going to be the people that settled in our land in 722 BC, and how that they would start writing books. Ashkenazi didn't start writing books to the Christian era, and then they got in and started writing books and stuff, and been in control of writing books, kind of like since her Edomite temple was destroyed. All right, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. When the Israelite explaining some Israelite history, man, he got to explain where them people come from. You got to. If you don't explain where those folks come from, then you ain't really kicking no Israelite history, and that how you using Jewish myths. You got to explain how did they get into the Israelite heritage. You have to explain how they get into the Israelite heritage. And it's like this little map right here. This Israelite captivity, and how we was taken to Nineveh, and then how we come back in what's called the Sati history. The return from the Assyrian captivity from 687 BC to 612. That's when Assyria was destroyed by the Babylonians, but how that we would be in association with the Syrians for a long time. Look, I can show that they only took 3 tribes. Look. And then that would be the reasons why those Israelites escaped during King Hezekiah time. Man, if you go to First Chronicles. All right, let's get to First Chronicles, and then we're going to First Chronicles, that'll be chapter 3, I think. No, it's chapter 5. And then you get over here, and then you get to reading. The sons of Reuben, this is 5:18. The sons of Reuben, the Gadites, the half tribe of Manasseh, availing men, able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, skillful in war, were 440,703 score that went out to war. And then as you get over here to 26, and the king of Assyria stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Halah and Harbor, and her men unto the river Gazon. Man, I explain in countless videos, I'm saying, about the Assyrian captivity, and how that the Assyrians needed us to help fight Ashkenazi, who had come up out of them mountains and stuff, who had come up out the mountains, and then they eventually took Assyria over. Like I already showed it, Prophet Isaiah already said from the Creator that the nations from the north would come and get us, and that's going to be them Gentile folks, and how that they would come down and chase us down. Well, they destroyed Assyria in 612 BC. So, we would come home, and that's why we had a trade with the Assyrians. When our enemies explaining Israelite history, they don't never tell the truth. So, we got to revise and redo our history all over. All right, I mean, if you go to Hosea 12, all right, and this is in 753 BC. Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind, and he daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. This was during the what they call the satire history, and Prophet Isaiah even prophesied that we would be, on par with the Assyrians. So it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, because we would know our way back from Assyria, and then that's why this was said. This is Isaiah 19, chapter 19, verse 23. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt, and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land. But because that's the people that Assyria took, get to come back home. That was a blessing in the midst of the land. In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt, and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land. And whom the Elohim of hope shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt my people, and the Assyrians the work of my hands, and Israel mine inheritance. And then when he say Egypt my people, he talking about more or less the Ephraimites. You know what I'm saying? Them and stuff. And then we know that couldn't have been no 10 lost tribes, and how that story is bogus, because in 725, before the Assyrian captivity, or before we even had a problems with the Assyrians, prophet Isaiah had already gave his message, and then he had said this. This is Isaiah 20, verse 3. And Elohim said, Like as my servant Isaiah hath walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptian prisoners and the Ethiopian captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. And that had to happen when the Assyrian Empire was around, which it did, because the Assyrians came into Africa and then whooped the Nubian stock, and then put the Mishwish, my peoples, on that the tribe of Ephraim was kindred to, and then let them rule. And then we would be tricked into Egypt, because that King Necho would kill King Josiah after he cleaned the Egyptian religion up. And then we would go into Africa, unto the transatlantic slave trade. And then how Prophet Isaiah had prophesied the destruction of the ones, that little tenth that returned, from Babylon. All right, so if you go to Isaiah 6, this is after the death of King Uzziah. He get an image of the Creator and some of the heavenly hosts, and then how that the Creator was sick and tired of our acting up and us straddling the fence, and then how he told one of the angels, man, to go give us a message, but how that prophet Isaiah said that he'll go give the message. All right, and then I pick up here. Also, I heard the voice of the Elohim saying, Whom shall I send, and whom will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not. See ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, and least they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. We used to pull that act on the Creator all the time. How we'll cry when bondage get on us and say, we're going to straighten up, and then we go back to the evil. So he was saying that couldn't happen now. Then said I, Elohim, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabited, and the houses without men, and the land be utterly desolate. And the Elohim have removed men far, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. The great forsaking in the midst of the land was us saying that we was going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, and how we was forsaking the covenant. And that's in the book of Jeremiah. All right. But yet, in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return. That's the exiles turning from the Babylonian captivity, and shall be eaten as a teal tree, and as an oak whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. The exiles from the Babylonian captivity got knocked off fast by the Greeks, because they couldn't pass that heritage over. If you read the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, they was mixing. They was mixing real bad. They was mixing and starting to pass the heritage over to the enemies. So the Creator calls for the Greeks to come in, them Goyams, the peoples from the north. And then how that they would get rid of the exiles, who was only a little tenth. And then, as I could show, that they only lived in Judah, in a little small city of Judah. Let me see if I can hunt that down real quick. And then how that they only live in Judah, the little small city in Judah, and how that they was doing bad. They start mortgaging the land and everything, and then how it was over with for them. That little tent, dropped off just like, many said. All right. This is Nehemiah 11, and will be around this is getting close to the end. This is almost like 100 years before the Greeks roll up. And the rulers of the people dwelt at Jerusalem. The rest of the people also cast lots to bring one of 10 to dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in other cities. And the people blessed all the men that willingly offered themselves to dwell at Jerusalem. Now these are the chief of the province that dwelt in Jerusalem, but in the cities of Judah dwelt everyone in his possession in their cities, to wit, Israel, the priests and the Levites and the Nethinims and the children of Solomon. See, man, we lived in a few cities in Judah close to Jerusalem. The Israelites too. Look, you see, it said Israel, you know what I'm saying, right there. And then as you read down, look, and then you get to verse 20. And the residue of Israel, of the priests and the Levites, were in all the cities of Judah, everyone in his inheritance. So, the Israelites that come back from the Babylonian captivity had to live in Judah inheritance in the little few cities, and then they got knocked off because they started mortgaging the land, and then start mixing and would never stop mixing, and then they got knocked off, like prophet Isaiah said about that little tent that'll be like a teal tree. And then that forsaking the covenant in the midst of the land was when we told the prophet Jeremiah that we was going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. And then if you go to Jeremiah chapter 44, we broke the covenant. It was over with. We took off into Africa. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her. We have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. And we got our mouth tore out for that. We went into Africa. Those Israelites that went into Africa, the 99% never returned. When these Israelites come back from Babylon, and how that we went in during the Babylonian wars, and how we never return back home, and that how when these Israelites come back home, the Queen of Heaven worshippers didn't come out of Africa to be reunited with them, and that's who we are. And then, as I explained, that the Scythians are the ones that chased us into Africa, and that's gonna be who Ashkenazi is. Them folks right there, they burnt the temple down. Alright, Israelites, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. We're going to get our Israelite history right and stuff, and we're going to stop using the other people's history, and how we're going to start making a distinction. And like I say, Hebrews, when Israelites are using or are trying to kick our history and talk about it, you need to ask them, how did Ashkenazi and the Sephardis come into the Israelite heritage? We're going to have to start pushing that now. That's something that's going to have to start being pushed. And I call upon every Israelite to do that that's been watching the Israelite Brotherhood videos. And you know how we family. So family, I'm asking you to ask people that talk about the Israelites, that talk about the Israelite heritage, that where the Sephardis and the Ashkenazis come into our heritage. All right, shalom, Hebrews. Message from the Israelite Brotherhood, and how we're going to get our history right. Shalom.